Daily login bonus, only a crest. I'm starting to wonder if daily bonuses, the daily orbs at all are going to come back. Anyone? Anyone? All right, well, less of my, complaining and more of my whining. Yeah, that's what people watch me for. Hi, guys. Hi, nerds. How you doing? Hope you're having a good day/night, whatever it is, wherever you are. Let's dive into what we need to talk about today. So, chances are you may have done the Grand Battle Hero, thing. Got Lloyd, our new hero that you can get. And you may be wondering if he's any good, what he's good at, and what you should be doing in case you want to build him. So that's why I'm here to kind of talk you through it, just in case you really want to know. And people have been debating if he's any good. And, I like to see the good side of every unit. So, even if it's a unit that people don't say is very good, I like to look at them anyways. And I think Lloyd has a lot of promise in his, whole field. But the problem is, of course, that he's a red sword unit, which means that he's competing with a lot of other sword units. So keep in mind, if you have a better sword unit, it's not a bad idea to use him. Just gonna point that out. Okay, so as always with what we do when it comes to this, at least since the last, pass or pull or pass, I can't ever get that title right, you will see the fully complete stats on the left side, outside of this. For those who want to know, of course, when it comes to Grand Battle Heroes, remember, all of their stats are always neutral no matter what. So no matter how many copies you get, his stats will always be the same as what you see on the left side there. Alright, so while you're all eyeballing that, talking is hard today, we're going to go over his exclusive things, his weapons, and, just get a good idea of what he can do. So, first up, Regal Blade, and it has a pretty decent might scaling. I say 16 is pretty nice. And of course, that special ability, if foe has unit, if the foe's HP is at 100% when combat starts, he will receive attack and speed +2. I mean, that's a nice ability. A little bit niche considering, but still good enough for when he, maybe he can one-hit KO a unit with that additional attack and speed. You never know. And from there, of course, we have Chilling Wind and Iceberg, which are good abilities for a unit that has high resistance. We'll talk about that a bit more later. And, of course, we have Pass, which, honestly, I'm just going to give a flat pass because I really don't see much advantage to that. It just lets you pass through foes if you hit certain health thresholds. And from there, we also have Threat and Attack, which I'm actually a bit more into when it comes down to what I like from a unit. Especially someone who might be, going into Brawl a bit more. Threat and Attack is always nice to have. It basically just reduces attack around that unit by 3, 4, or 5 based on the tier. Nothing too crazy. So, we're going to talk about pros, cons real quick, and see what Lloyd excels at. So, just from eyeballing the stats, you can probably get the idea of what he might be pretty, nice at, well, at least decent enough at doing. HP is actually fairly decent. His attack is around, I believe, 48 with his Regal Blade. You can, of course, change that out if you don't want to keep that, but, 48, not bad. Speed is actually quite high at 35, and can probably go even higher if you decide to push it or buff it at all. His defense, unfortunately, is a bit meager, and from there you can also see that his resistance is quite high for a swordsman, which you may wonder what that means. So, and you might have asked, hey, why does he have, Iceberg? And, well, that would be, of course, to rely on his resistance, which is actually quite high, and he can run with that if you decide to use it. It's just mostly up to you. You can always, decide to change it out, I guess, if you want. So, all in all, I say his pros are, well, decent stats. He has good attack and good speed. Resistance does help, and his health is alright. But, on the opposite side, he does have not that great defense, and the other con I can think of is that, well, he's competing for a slot that honestly is usually overtaken by other swordsmen who will probably do better than him in his field. Just saying, that's how it's going to be. He's going to be competing for a market that may not exist there for a second, but if you decide to invest in him, he might do you pretty well outside of, his facial animations, which continue to bizarrely scare me, and I like using them whenever I get the chance. This is just... oh, man. Such a majestic face. Do you have anything to say about that, Lloyd?
Fangs eliminate lowlifes, no matter how high their station.
Alright, wow, that's a bit much. So, people may be asking, what would be a good build for him? And I'm just going to give you one that I honestly think will do pretty well if you decide to go with it. Granted, it is a Fury build, so you might need to prepare for that a bit. It does mean that he... usually when it comes to Fury builds, you don't really have to worry too much about taking damage or getting hurt too badly, but outside of, you know, getting hurt by yourself. But when it comes to his passive skills right now, Pass is just not that reliable, so instead we're going to give him in his A slot, at least I hope I still have a Hinata, or as I like to call him, a Weeb. That's an inside joke for anyone who's been with this channel for so long, woo! But anyways, Fury is a unique ability in that it'll slide right into his A slot, and it will grant additional attack, speed, defense, and resistance, and, you know, at expenses of taking some damage after combat. But that is a pretty significant buff to every stat that he has, and it will help him excel in certain areas, especially speed, attack, and resistance in case you decide to go a little bit cheaper with how you're going to do this. You know, of course, he already has Iceberg on him, so boosting resistance is not a bad idea, especially if you already have people buffing him, and Fury can stack on top of that, which is great. It does help him out. Fury is a good option for the A slot. You could always go with something else, but I still highly suggest Fury as a good setup for our good friend Lloyd, alright? Just saying, Fury is nice. Next up, for B slot, we're probably going to go with Desperation. I actually hope I still have... I think I do. You do have Desperation, I believe. Yes, you do. So, Shauna has Desperation. Desperation is very nice if you have a character who can actually hit the speed thresholds, where basically once they hit these certain health thresholds, they will do their follow-up attack immediately if they are initiating attack, which means great things for a unit like Lloyd, who, if you stack Fury on, you will have even more speed to go off of, and it will do a pretty penny in damage, I think. So, yeah, I honestly think Desperation is probably the best option for our good friend Lloyd if you want to go with the B-slot weapon. You can always go with Renewal if you really want a little bit more survivability, but I do like, you know, Desperation as an actual skill for him. It just melds so well with him when you enhance it with Fury. Outside of that, when it comes to C-slot, well, I guess we'll just talk about that a bit more. Because, well, he already has Threat and Attack, and if you don't... You know, I have to say, at least by some means, Threat and Attack is a good ability to have, especially for him. He already has it innately, it's a decent enough ability, and you could keep that. But you can always change it out for whatever Hone or Spur you may want, or, you know, whatever Threaten you may want. You might want Speed instead of that, or Defense instead of that. It's really up to you and what you feel comfortable with. If you want to save on SP, you can always just keep Threat and Attack, and you will go pretty far with him with that, at least from what I can piece together. Outside of that, you know, we're also going to talk about Iceberg and Chilly Wind here. For those who don't know, these of course add, you know, the damage from a certain stat to their attack. So with Iceberg here, you're going to add a bit more damage from your resistance. This is nice. It's very useful. It is already a pretty good ability for him to have as a unit right out of the box. So if you get him, you don't necessarily have to change this. You don't really have to alter that. If you want to change it, you could always go with something like, I guess, if you're boosting him via Fury, you can go with something like, I don't know, Draconic Aura, maybe, or potentially, I see it, I mean, if you really need to, you know, change it. I know a lot of people suggest Moonbow, but I'm going to tell you right now, don't ever go with just Moonbow, guys. It's always a cheap alternative, but it does lessen your units in some regard, just for that little bit more of a charge time. But, you know, with a speedy unit like Lloyd here, he'll usually double units, and especially if he has Fury on, he will be activating these abilities quite handily, and Iceberg will do more damage over time than Moonbow can. So, again, Iceberg is not a bad idea. If you want to, you could change it out for something else. You could always go with Moonbow, I guess, but I still think Iceberg is a great idea. So we're gonna go and finalize this little thing here. You can change his Regal Blade if you really want to. I don't really see a reason to. Regal Blade is nice enough as is. And then from there, of course, I say keep Iceberg because with resistance, it's decent enough to do more damage than Moonbow.
Fortunate that neither of us is a lowlife.
Anyways.
Fangs would strike.
Alright, thanks, bud. In A slot again, Fury. Hinata's a good option at 4 stars. From there, B slot. Desperation is a very nice skill to put on him, and that comes from Shauna. And finally, you can always, of course, keep Threat and Attack. It's decent enough for him. And that's the basic build that I can think of when it comes to Lloyd. It'll serve you well. He'll do pretty well in battle, I think, and you know, if you ever really wanted to compare him to someone, it would probably be Ellawood. He's kind of similar to Ellawood in a way. He's just not a cavalry unit. And, you know, people might poo-poo at that. But Lloyd, I feel, is a decent enough infantry unit if you decide to use him. I think he can probably deal quite a lot of damage and be a very, very good attack, you know, red unit. Sword unit, at least. And that's about it all for, you know, this little video here, guys. That's my build. That's my idea. Just based on the stats that we see here, I think Lloyd is a good option for those who need a good sword unit if you have the time to invest into it. Fury is definitely a good option for him. Alright, so that's about it, guys. That's all for Lloyd. We went as in-depth as we could when it came to builds. I'm not entirely happy with him for the most part. He's an okay unit, but again, you know, your discretion is advised, I guess. It's really up to you what you want to use. If you have never Yoma, chances are you're not going to be using Lloyd, but still, there you go. Alright guys, before I go check out our Shadows of Valentia playthrough. We're starting. The first episode's up now. You can click on one of the things that is on the side or something. Go check it out. I'd love to see you guys and see your opinions on it. And, you know, hang out with me and my friends as we play through the game. And that's about it, guys. So for now, I'm going to hop off and go to bed. Catch you all tomorrow. Have a pleasant evening or morning. As always, nerds, catch you later.